It was many things, but I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards.
Why was she silent about the Epstein files? Is she also involved? Because here's the question nobody is asking out loud. Melinda Gates has spent the last 4 years positioning herself as the victim, the betrayed wife, the woman who had no idea, the woman who drew a hard line and got lied to. But what if the story is not that simple? What if Melinda French Gates knew more than she has ever admitted? And what if her silence for over a decade was not just pain, but strategy? Let's go back to the beginning, not the fairy tale version, the real one. It was 2013. Melinda Gates walked into Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan townhouse for dinner. Not dragged in, not tricked, she walked in. By 2013, Jeffrey Epstein was not a mystery. He had already pleaded guilty in 2008 to soliciting a minor. He had served time. He was a registered sex offender. His name was attached to some of the most powerful men on the planet. Anyone in their world, at their level, with their access to information, knew exactly who Jeffrey Epstein was. And Melinda Gates sat down for dinner with him anyway. She has since said she felt something was deeply wrong the moment she walked through the door. She described Epstein as evil personified. She said she had nightmares about him afterwards. But here is what she has never fully explained. Why did she stay for dinner? Why did she not walk out immediately? And more importantly, why did she wait until 2021, a full 8 years later, to tell the public about that night? 8 years of silence from a woman who now tells us she trusted her instincts from the very first moment. Melinda has told us that after that 2013 dinner, Bill met with Epstein at least 6 more times between 2011 and 2014. Some of those meetings happened before dinner, some happened after. Here is the uncomfortable question. Was Melinda really in the dark the entire time? Bill Gates is not a man who hides well. He is famously awkward, famously transparent in his habits, famously poor at the social maneuvering most powerful men use to conceal their behavior. This is the same man who scheduled a first date 2 weeks in advance like a business meeting. And yet somehow, across years of meetings, Skype calls, late nights, international trips to Norway, Melinda knew nothing? She ran a foundation with him. She sat across from him in board meetings. She reviewed his calendar. She was not a passive wife quietly waiting at home. She was his partner, his co-chair, his operational equal. The idea that Bill Gates had a secret, years-long relationship with the most notorious predator in the world and his co-founder had absolutely no indication of it requires a significant leap of faith. Now, here is where it gets complicated. Even if Melinda suspected something, even if she had fragments of information, silence is not necessarily guilt. Sometimes silence is survival. Sometimes silence is protection. Sometimes silence is the price you pay for staying inside a life you built with 30 years of your own labor. Melinda French gave up a significant career trajectory when she married Bill Gates. She stepped back from her own ambitions at Microsoft. She shaped herself around his vision for decades. When you invest that much of yourself into a structure, tearing it down means admitting that the foundation was always cracked. So perhaps the harder, more honest question is not whether Melinda was involved with Epstein. There is no credible evidence suggesting that. The question is whether she made calculated choices about what to see, what to ask, and what to let slide in order to protect the life she was living. That is a very human thing to do. It is also a very different story than the one she's been telling. In January 2026, the Department of Justice released over 3 million pages of Epstein-related documents. Bill Gates was named directly in unverified draft emails that Epstein had apparently written to himself in 2013. The allegations in those documents were explosive. They have not been independently verified. Bill Gates has denied them completely. But watch what Melinda said when asked about it. She did not say she was shocked. She did not say she had no idea such things could be possible. She said the documents filled her with unbelievable sadness and brought back memories of some very painful times in her marriage. Painful times, not shocking revelations, painful memories, as if she was revisiting something familiar, not encountering something new. And then she said the line that every journalist should have pressed much harder on. Whatever questions remain, they need to answer to those things, not me. Not me. Why would Melinda Gates need to clarify that she doesn't have to answer for what was in those documents, unless some part of her understood that the question might one day turn toward her? Here is what we know for certain. Melinda Gates walked away from her divorce with billions of dollars, a globally respected new foundation, a best-selling book, and an image that has been almost entirely rehabilitated in the public eye. She is not Melinda Gates anymore. She is Melinda French Gates. She did the late-night shows. She talked about dating again. She smiled. She thrived. And that's genuinely impressive. Rebuilding your identity after a 27-year marriage collapses is not easy for anyone, regardless of how many billions soften the landing. But the speed and completeness of her image transformation is worth noting, because reputations like that don't build themselves. They are constructed deliberately, strategically, with very careful management of what information comes out and when, and equally careful management of what never comes out at all. Melinda chose to speak about Epstein only after the story was already public. She chose to speak about the affairs only when they could no longer be denied. She has never publicly addressed what she might have known or suspected at the time, and so far, no journalist has made her. This is not about destroying Melinda Gates. What Bill did was a genuine betrayal. His behavior with Epstein, the affairs, the pattern of using his position to pursue women who worked for him, none of that is excused or minimized by asking harder questions about Melinda. But the way this story has been told is almost entirely one-directional. Bill Gates is the villain, Melinda Gates is the survivor. The end. Real life is almost never that clean. She was his partner for 27 years. She helped build the machine. She sat at the same tables, attended the same meetings, moved in the same circles. She had access to information that most people on Earth will never have. And for a very long time, she was quiet. Maybe that silence was grief. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was strategy. Maybe it was the messy, painful arithmetic of a woman weighing everything she had built against everything she had discovered. Or maybe she simply didn't know, and we should take her at her word. But before we hand anyone a fully clean narrative, before we declare any winner in a story this complicated, it's worth sitting with one simple fact. She knew about the dinner. She was there. And for 8 years, she said nothing. What do you think? Was Melinda protecting herself, protecting her family, or is there something bigger she has still not told us? Drop your thoughts below.